UFC 320 Ankalaev vs Pereira 2 took place on October 4th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The event brought in $9 million at the gate, as well as sponsorships, merchandise sales, and potential site fees that can range from the millions to tens of millions. Not to mention the UFC's broadcasting deal with ESPN, which pulls north of $500 million a year. But how big of a slice did the fighters actually take home? Apologies in advance for sounding like absolute dog shit for this recording. Hopefully you can bear with me and my voice should be back to its usual mediocre monotone in the next video. The Nevada State Athletic Commission does not disclose fighter pay information, so while Venom sponsorship and fight bonuses are released, I base the purses on disclosed earnings from previous events. And if you stick around until the end, I'll reveal how much the channel made from the last video. With that said, let's jump into the first fight.
Every fighter that's under contract, if you want to tell the media what you're paid, that's up to you.
Starting with the feature prelim, UFC newcomer Tre'ston Vines spent the first minute of the fight backing away from his opponent Ateba Gautier before shooting in for a takedown and getting met with a powerful knee to the face. Gautier's strength advantage was obvious, as later in the round he landed several vicious elbows in the clinch, then threw Vines to the canvas where he finished him off with right hands to take the first round knockout win. On his first fight in the UFC, Vines earned $12,000 to show and $4,000 in Venom sponsorship, also known as Fight Week incentive, bringing his total to $16,000. While Ateba Gautier, also on his rookie contract, took home $14,000 to show and $14,000 to win, along with $4,000 in sponsorship, putting him at $32,000 on the night. Kicking off the main card, an ill-executed trip by Joe Pyfer allowed his opponent Khabib Nurmagomedov to reverse the position and take top control in the first round. Early in the second, Pyfer scored a knockdown off a right hand and had Magomedov in all kinds of trouble on the ground with punches and elbows, splitting his face open. After several transitions and an arm triangle attempt, Pyfer eventually locked in a rear naked choke for a huge submission victory. Magomedov earned a projected $56,000 purse, along with $6,000 in sponsorship, for a total of $62,000. While Pyfer, in his 7th fight with the UFC, made closer to $48,000 to show and $48,000 for the win, along with $6,000 in sponsorship pay and a $50,000 performance of the night bonus, taking home $152,000. The second bout didn't last long at all, as Youssef Zalal took down veteran Josh Emmett in the first round of their featherweight bout. From there, Zalal isolated the right arm, and while Emmett initially defended the attempt, he ultimately was forced to tap, handing Youssef Zalal the first round victory. It was a beautiful and efficient performance by the Moroccan, who is now on a 5-fight win streak, with all but one coming by submission. Emmett took home around $130,000 to show, as well as $16,000 in sponsorship pay, for a total of $146,000. While in his second stint with the UFC, Zalal earned an estimated $56,000 and $56,000 for the win, along with $11,000 in Venom sponsorship, and Dana White stated at the post-fight press conference that while Zalal didn't earn a performance bonus, he wouldn't be going home empty-handed. This type of locker room bonus is usually in the range of $4,000 to $25,000, so for simplicity's sake, I'll say he earned an extra $10,000, giving him a total of $133,000. There was a lot of bouncing around to start the third fight, as Jiří Procházka and Khalil Rountree Jr. got a feel for each other's timing. The striking opened up midway through, as Rountree connected with a couple of heavy blows, followed by a flying knee attempt from Jiří, and from that point, the war was on. Khalil looked the much sharper striker, as Jiří was a bit awkward with his movement, but the momentum shifted in an insane third round that saw both fighters empty the tank. It seemed like every strike was significant, and in the chaos, Procházka was able to land the final combination. It ended with a left hook that flattened Rountree and delivered Jiří Procházka the knockout victory. Rountree has no recently disclosed purses to go off of, but we can still use similarly positioned fighters to come up with a rough estimate. Joaquin Buckley, in his 15th fight and on the cusp of a title shot, made a disclosed $150,000 in his last outing. Or Jared Cannonier, a few fights removed from an unsuccessful title bid, finds himself in a nearly identical spot in his career to Khalil. In his 17th fight, he made a disclosed $165,000 headlining UFC Louisville. Also in his 17th fight, I'd put Rountree's purse somewhere in that ballpark. He'd also take in $16,000 in sponsorship pay, as well as a $50,000 fight of the night bonus, for a total of $231,000 on the night. Meanwhile, Jiří Procházka is in my opinion one of those fighters on the cusp of championship pay. In his last fight at UFC 311, he was listed at $200,000 to show with a $50,000 win bonus. However, fighters at this level don't always have their full purses disclosed. Henry Cejudo was listed at $150 and $150 for his fight at UFC Seattle. However, he stated on his YouTube channel that he was actually contracted at $350,000 with a $150,000 win bonus, a nearly 70% increase from his disclosed amount. If we apply that math to Jiří's purse, he actually would have made closer to $300,000 to show with a $100,000 win bonus, along with $6,000 in Venom sponsorship and a $50,000 fight of the night bonus, as well as a performance of the night bonus for a $500,000 paycheck. In the bantamweight co-main event, the challenger Cory Sandhagen had a lot of success with his takedown defense against the champion Merab Dvalishvili and outstruck him in the first round. But in the second, Merab connected with a flurry of punches and had Sandhagen in a world of trouble, very nearly finishing him before returning to his wrestling for the remainder of the round. As the fight continued, Dvalishvili was relentless with his takedown attempts as usual, but Sandhagen did have moments in the striking exchanges. After 25 minutes, Merab's pressure and pace proved too much as he defended his bantamweight strap and took the unanimous decision win. Disclosed title challenger purses often sit in the $350,000 to $500,000 range. However, side letters and undisclosed pay can increase that amount by hundreds of thousands. Knowing that, Sandhagen likely earned around $500,000 to $1 million guaranteed, along with $32,000 in Venom sponsorship, coming out to $782,000. And as for the winner and still bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili, as the defending champ in a co-main event spot, he pulled an estimated $750,000 to $1.25 million purse, along with the champion's $42,000 in sponsorship, as well as his cut of the pay-per-view revenue. Reports from earlier this year suggest that UFC pay-per-view sales are down overall, so taking that into consideration, I'm estimating 350,000 buys. And using the standard rate most recently outlined in 2022 agency documents prepared for Francis Ngannou's negotiations, Merab would earn an additional $150,000, totaling $1,192,000. Only 7% of the people watching this video are subscribers, so if you're enjoying the content and want to keep up with all the latest videos, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And what can I even say about the main event? Alex Pereira snatched his light heavyweight belt back from Magomed Ankalaev in dominant fashion. It was a display of violence that only took 1 minute and 20 seconds, starting with a right hand that staggered Ankalaev, and from there Pereira pounced, dropping hammer fists and elbows as Magomed shelled up on the canvas. Eventually the referee stepped in to call the fight, and Alex Pereira walked away victorious. Despite the loss, Ankalaev in his first title defense likely pulled between $1 and $1.5 million guaranteed. He'd also earned the champion's $42,000 in sponsorship pay, as well as his cut of the pay-per-view revenue for an additional $150,000. That gives him a total of $1,442,000 on the night. And as for the new UFC light heavyweight champion, according to John Nash, Poatan earned $3 to $4 million per fight last year. However, it's likely he pulled a smaller guaranteed purse since this time he was not the defending champ. That could put him in the $2 to $3 million range, along with the challenger's $32,000 in sponsorship, plus a $50,000 performance of the night bonus. And while he isn't guaranteed pay-per-view points in the same way that champions are, I'll assume he did receive them for this immediate rematch. Adding in his $150,000 share comes out to a grand total of $2,732,000. And last but not least, my video on UFC Perth got around 3.8 thousand views as of this posting, translating to just under $9. Corrections to the numbers I've shown will be listed in a pinned comment below. Thanks for bearing with me. See you next week for UFC Fight Night, Oliveira vs Gamrot.